All right, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Big Doug and Carmi Show. My buddy Rico is on today. Rico, what's happening? So you got the black number 5 on,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Even though the jersey's bad luck on game days, but I'm allowed to wear it every other day of the week. So, yes, sir. I'm good.
and I did not know this, but you're not allowed to wear alternates in the playoffs, so no need to worry about losing in the blacks during the playoffs.
Oh, I did not know that either.
I
Okay,
didn't either.
cool.
This,
Bet.
you don't know these things when you're not been to the playoffs in 20 years.
We don't know any of the
You don't
rules.
know any of the playoff rules. Rico, this has been an interesting year. Most of the people that watch your show and watch my show know the two things we love most: the Commanders and the Bulldogs. I cannot believe that. There he is. Yes, sir. This usually we know on Saturdays things are going to be lovely, and on Sunday we flip a coin. Oddly enough, Rico's been different this year. They were coin flips a lot of Saturdays, it felt like, and we were really excited for Sundays. I will give my Georgia Bulldogs the year off so that my Commanders can have it. How about you?
Yeah, I just wish they could be great at the same time. But I mean, I'm really optimistic about next year because we're about to go from the worst receiving core in the Kirby Smart tenure to probably the best with bringing over Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas and those guys. And then even the recruiting class, I feel like Elias Williams is honestly the best not the best non-quarterback high school recruit. I feel like he's extremely underrated. I know he's technically 5-star in a lot of places, but I think he literally should be like a top 2, top 3 player. So I'm really excited about the future. We'll see what Gunner Stockton can do. But yeah, it would have been nice if they could have been great at the same time. The Georgia Bulldogs, man, not getting anything going into the fourth quarter, a lot of games, and then they thought that formula could work, but it didn't bail them out against Notre Dame, and then they paid the price for it. But Commanders, man, whoo, it's been beautiful.
We're going to get to Commanders. So, Commanders fans, don't bail on us here. Was it Bobo or Beck last year?
Whoa, I
Are
honestly,
you
I
a
feel
Bobo?
like
I'm not a Bobo fan. Are you?
I'm not a big. I mean, I miss Todd Monken a lot, and I feel like we could do better. But I feel like it was O line probably the most. Like it just seems like we just didn't develop guys. I'm honestly looking at Stacy Searles a little, with a little strange. Like what happened? I mean, now granted we don't have like a bunch of 5 stars on the offensive line like we used to, but there's still a lot of 4 stars in there that it's like they didn't really get much better. Through their years of going through the program, so I am a little worried about that. Hopefully, the future bodes well there. And then also receiver drops were huge. I feel like Beck was a lot of it. And there's all these reports that the locker room they didn't like his situation with his girl. Something gotten in the way there. And then I'm not a big fan of Bobo. But I feel like O line and receiver drops were my two, for me personally, just the things that frustrated me the most.
Okay, let's move it on to the guys that are still playing football. Is this your first playoff run, Rico?
Yeah, because 2005. I mean, definitely for this channel. Who we, but
Yes.
um, I was last time we won a playoff game. I was 2005. I was maybe 10 years old by then.
Right. Yeah.
So like, I mean, I love the Commanders, but I didn't know what 4-3 defense even meant yet or anything like that. So this is a completely different ride this time.
It has been really cool for a man with his beard as white as mine to see the younger generation kind of to get some love. I mean, we felt it's been a long time. My beard had all kind of red and auburn in it, but it's been great to see not just the old fans coming back, the younger generation getting to share in some love, but even building a new generation with Jayden Daniels. I'm sure like you are all the time. And the kids love Jayden Daniels, man.
Oh man, he's the coolest thing doing it. I mean, even a lot of my Falcons fans friends, even like they gave me my props. I was at the gym earlier with a few of them. They were like, "Hey man, hey y'all got one," and I like Michael Penix too, but hey, Jaden Daniels is different. And yeah, that's really important because like typically new fans are bred through winning, and for us, it's either like maybe your parents were a Commanders fan,
Right.
maybe you were born and raised in the DMV, but it's just not very likely from somebody born and raised in Idaho to be a Berkney and Gold fan within the past 20 years. It would be absolutely no reason to be that. So now that we're starting to get the quarterback, we're about to probably play primetime games endlessly. They're going to try to send us to Germany and the UK and Brazil as much as they can next year. He's big money, and it's beautiful. Our fan base is definitely going to grow. But I love how, I mean, even you could just tell we were a sleeping giant and everybody was just lying dormant, waiting for Dan Snyder to sell the team and for us to finally have a team to believe in. Because from everything I was seeing and hearing, it looks like we actually showed out in Tampa Bay for that game as well.
Yes, well, I was hoping George would make it. He still doesn't have a voice, and I guess he's a little ill from being down in Tampa,
I feel that.
just kind of get the
Blue.
experience because he said, and Chris Bryant was there. It was loud, lots of people there, and they were there well after the game was over. Just incredible to see. You made a great point, Rico, and I'm going to steal it. Um, when you have a guy like Jayden Daniels and you're getting new fans because they're winning and it's cool, that is a totally different vibe than when my dad was a Commanders Redskins fan, so now I am. Getting the casual fans that's out of the market is something they would have never thought about before. Very possible it happens now.
Yeah, it's our fan base is about to balloon. I mean, you even have all of the national media members talking about us all the time. So even if somebody doesn't watch our games, if you just have ESPN on and you're just constantly seeing Commanders, 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 Jayden Daniels, and you're seeing the highlights of him making people miss, throwing great passes on fourth down for touchdowns and things like that, naturally you're gonna gravitate towards that. A lot of people just maybe you don't like football that much, and then you find this really exciting, fun team that's winning. And then you're like, you know what? I can get into some football through this team. We can be that team now and get that segment of, the population. So I'm really excited.
Dan Quinn used the word dangerous in his press conference when referring to Jayden Daniels. It feels like the right word.
Yeah, that was way back before. Was that before we drafted him or right after we drafted him? He said that way back then, and they loved him. I think it's Chris Cowherd that keeps bringing up the point that typically after a team drafts a quarterback, they try to damper expectations a little bit. He said this was a unique situation where they were like, man, this guy is fantastic. And this was like training camp. And, a lot of people were like, man, maybe you don't want to put that much pressure on the quarterback. But Jayden Daniels, cool, calm, and collected. I mean, if there's any quarterback that can handle some pressure, it's him. He's unfazed. I absolutely love that about him, too. That's one of my favorite things about him.
I know you watch a ton of college football just like I do. I can't remember a guy that basically got cursed out of Arizona State, winds up at LSU, get some actual playmakers and an offense that works for him. And I got to tell you, I have been amazed at the transformation from Arizona State to the Washington Commanders. I can't remember another time where it worked out that perfectly for somebody.
Yeah, and I mean, even just to go back to the LSU days, like you brought up, great point. Because as a Georgia Bulldog fan, we're watching the SEC all of the time. When we played them in the SEC championship, a few years ago, I was completely caught off guard. I wasn't really paying attention to LSU that much that year. We played them in the SEC championship, and that was one of our defenses where we barely allowed points. Like, good luck getting double-digit points against us. That man went up there and put up like I think 20 something, 30. I can't remember the exact score, but I was like, who is that? I may need to keep my eye on him, maybe for the Commanders in a few years and things like that. And then it's just crazy how it all came full circle. And then even going from LSU to your point, Arizona State to LSU was a huge leap in development. And then to go from LSU to the NFL and what he's doing already as far as like, I mean, a lot of his critiques and supposed weaknesses coming out of the draft, doesn't like to throw over the middle. Most of his fourth down completions, most of his touchdowns are over the middle. Doesn't look up when he runs. Granted, the first like week and a half, like it took until like second half of that week 2 Giants game for him to finally look up while scrambling, and that was a big part in like a lot of these game winning drives where I think it was against the Cow. No, it may have been. It was so much that happened in that game 2 nights ago. I can't even remember. Was it that game, the Buccaneers, where he scrambled a little bit and then found Zach Ertz after he was just about to
Yes,
cross the line of scrimmage?
that's this
Yeah,
Bucks game.
he wasn't doing that week one, and so when the last time we played the Buccaneers, ironically, so it's just it's amazing how he's gotten so much better. Every step of the way, and then it seems like every week, every time a new defense throws something at him, where because when we played the Cleveland Browns, that was the first time he really dealt with like a heavy blitz defense and like a heavy man coverage defense, and it took him a while to adjust to that, and you know all the sorts of different defenses, things that different things defensive coordinators have thrown at him. It may take him like a quarter or two to get used to it, but once he does, it's good. And so, I mean, the sky's the limit with him, man.
It was either Kingsbury or Blau, one of the offensive coaches, that came out and said they realized like 5 6 weeks ago that, and people were asking about the slow first halves for Jayden like a month ago, and they said when we went back and looked at the tape, we realized that in the first half of those games, they were throwing defenses at him that we hadn't seen on tape from those defenses. They were had particularly set up defenses that they knew Jade hadn't seen before. So it was taking about the first half to kind of get used to what they were trying to do. And again, I thought to myself, the average rookie, you just blitzing the hell out of them and expecting them to make rookie mistakes. The fact that defensive coordinators are coming up with completely different defensive game plans for the kid is just incredible.
I mean, when do you see the Buccaneers run zone defense and not blitz a lot? They were running, throwing four people at them because they were just so afraid of them at times. So, yeah, man. I mean, it gets people out of what they normally like to do defensively because it's just, what do we do? I mean, we've watched this game tape on this team, try this, that didn't work. We normally do this. We saw this other team do that, it didn't work. And it just seems like they're kind of just throwing stuff out there. Let's see what catches at this point against this kid.
Well, when you think about it, if you think about the last like pretty good quarterback we had was Kirk Cousins, and we can argue how good Kirk Cousins is another time, but like he was legit at the time and went on to make a lot of money, and he's been pretty good. But what Kirk wasn't, and this is the reason he never became great, was that he was never great in crunch or prime time situations. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Jayden is literally doing it on the last play of every game with a smile on his face, excited about the opportunity to be able to whoop you on the last play of the game. I mean, they literally got the ball back with 4 minutes Sunday night and never gave it back. And I was trying to think to myself how frustrated Baker Mayfield must have been sitting on that sideline with 4.5 minutes left, dying to get an opportunity to get back on the field, and he just never does.
Yeah, remember Jayden knows that exact feeling. That Ravens game, you saw him on the
That's right.
sideline when our defense couldn't get that stop. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he told them this. Of course, we don't absolutely know, but I'm pretty sure he told them like, "Hey, if y'all ever give me the chance where I have the ball last, I got y'all." And he's had us for outside of the Cowboys game because Marcus Mariota came in the second half and he did the same thing. He's had us for like the last 5 6 games, and it's really incredible the run that he's on. I mean, there's so many records I can't keep up. You know, I try to keep all of the tabs of the different records I'm seeing on Twitter and different places. But I mean, my computer's gonna melt from me trying to keep all of these records. It's rookie records, it's NFL history records. We can't even forget like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season where we were breaking like we were being compared to like the greatest show on turf or the Randy Moss, Tom Brady Patriots season and things like that when it came to like efficiency, never punting and things like that. And we hadn't seen that for a while. And they brought that right back. I mean, granted, failed fourth down conversions, but no punts, no turnovers against the Buccaneers. I think only he and Peyton Manning have done that in a victory in the playoffs in NFL history. That is incredible.
It is, and I imagine early on when he was saying things like, "Give me the ball, I won't let you down." Some of the vets were like, "Yeah, okay." You know they've got to be all ball 10. I know I am. When we sit here watching on Sundays or Mondays, whatever it is, and my wife and I look at each other and just feel like I'm not overly worried. Like it used to be, you would be worried. We get the ball last in the second half, and I feel real comfortable about what's going to happen, and that is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons game, literally, I said before they even flipped the coin, I said tails never fails. Once it was head, once they said heads and it ended up being tails, I was like, yeah, we're good. We got this. It's amazing how confident we are in this quarterback this quickly. Because it feels like time flies when you're having fun, and so an element of it, it does feel like, oh man, we're already in January, but at the same time, that week one Buccaneers game feels like it's years ago. Like, I mean, how much we've
Yes.
matured and developed, not even just Jayden Daniels, but as a team or even as a fan base to be able to like mentally and emotionally learn to embrace what we're seeing in front of us right now. This is completely different for us. So I've enjoyed the ride full time, and man, just thank you, Jayden Daniels. If you see this, man, please thank you,
And Josh Harris and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury.
everybody.
I was talking with Louis T on Friday. It's amazing how many swings they had to take this offseason because you talk about a complete rebuild. I mean, yes, the ownership groups come in 2 years ago, but I mean, this year pretty much was like a full sweep, clean out the shop. 69% of the roster turnover, rookie quarterback, all new staff. And they've hit on all of it, Rico. All of
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Adam Peters hasn't missed one.
even the Bobby Johnson one. I'm not sure about you, but I questioned it. I was like, the Giants O
Sure.
line was not good. I mean, when in doubt, every step of the way was, Adam Peters thinks is a good idea. I'ma see. I'm not gonna judge it too harshly early on. I'ma see what happens. And even the Bobby Johnson hire has worked out. Because even beyond just the offensive line, I think it was Grant Paulson that pointed out that like you even see some plays that only the Giants ran that like Cliff Kingsbury is doing a great job of orchestrating, allowing Brian Johnson from the Eagles, he's our offensive passing game
Mhm.
coordinator. You see some Jalen Hurts Eagles plays in there. You're seeing some stuff that the Giants ran. You're seeing some Anthony Lynn in there as well. And it's just a beautiful blend of it. They hit every step of the way. I don't see any misses. The free agency was ridiculous. Not only did we sign like the most free agents by number, by amount, but then like the efficiency of it to where we didn't pay anybody ridiculous money. I mean, we used to have to overpay for guys because they would know I'm going to this dysfunctional franchise. You're going to have to pay me more on top of that to come here and basically waste away my career. You're going to have to basically pay me the difference in what it is that I could get from being with a Super Bowl contender. And now, I mean, Adam Schefter said it right before the trade deadline. NFL veteran starters on other teams are telling their agents, please trade me to the Commanders. So imagine what it's going to be like in free agency, man.
Well, that's why I keep trying to convince myself and the fan base is that this really is year one of a recalibration. The roster, like I don't want to be too down on the podcast today because it's been a great year, but this has to be the worst roster from top to bottom in the playoffs right now.
Oh, yeah. Definitely
Right?
the
I
worst
mean, I'm
roster
not
in the
crazy
play.
on that, right?
No, I completely. Jayden Daniels is elevating an average, maybe even slightly below average overall roster. And the good thing about the fact that Adam Peters is our general manager and I trust everything that he does is that this is the worst roster we'll see this team have for, I hope, a very long time.
Yes.
It's only going to get better from here. Jayden Daniels is going to get better. We're going to acquire better talent. I feel like these coaches, I know Joe Wood Jr. gets a lot of flack for things, but I feel like he's doing a great job of making up for a lot of the lack of talent that we have right now, all across the entire defense. Cliff Kingsbury getting, I mean, Olamide Zaccheaus, the Eagles literally just kicked him to the curb. They did not care about him at all. Jamison Crowder was available. He's contributing to punt returns and picking up clutch third downs for us, towards the end of the regular season. It's a coaching as far as a value, scouting, finding the right guys in game, calling the right plays, putting everybody in positions to win. It's a top to bottom masterpiece and masterclass going on right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The fan base is getting nervous because a lot of the coaches are starting to get asked to interview elsewhere. This is what happens when you're good, and this is why you have to trust Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, we've talked about it a bunch on the podcast. Dan Quinn has set this group up for success so that if people leave, if Cliff Kingsbury leaves, you have four different options on this team that could easily become the offensive coordinator, and you just keep moving up through. Joe Witt Jr. has an interview with the Jets. Again, they have put that group in position that they feel comfortable with guys behind them that can keep on moving up the list. And I think before we were just, to your point, buying pieces, plugging them in, signing whoever coach we could find. Dan Quinn is setting this team up for a level of future success that we haven't seen here ever.
And I think his experience with the Falcons as a head coach is paying off. I mean, mightily
Yes.
right now. I think when we first hired him, a lot of people were saying that like some people may be down on Dan Quinn as the hiring, but you're gonna learn to love him in the future because there were reports and a lot of people were saying that Dan Quinn, after the whole Falcons thing, went haywire, he called like everybody he could and was like, "Yo, what could I have done better? Like, what? I mean, any way possible, please, like, be completely transparent with me, be as harsh of a critic as you could be. What could I have done better? So whenever I do get another head coaching opportunity, I do everything the right way." And whatever they told him worked for sure. I mean, I don't think Dan Quinn was a bad head coach for the Falcons. Even as an avid Falcons hater that I am, I feel like he did. I mean, he took them to the Super Bowl, and granted, they collapsed, but they were up 28-3 in a Super Bowl. And I feel like compared to what we've gotten pretty much my whole lifetime, I would love to be up 28-3 in a Super Bowl, even if we do end up losing it, compared to what I've been dealing with my whole life. So I think Dan Quinn has done a fantastic job of just leading them, making sure everybody has the right mindset going into games. And then even to your point with the free agency additions, like bringing in guys that have been there, done that. Bobby Wagner has won a Super Bowl. Zach Ertz has won a Super Bowl. Making sure you have guys on both sides of the ball in as many different position groups as possible so that you have the homegrown talent. You're going through the draft. You want to build through the draft long term to have long term sustained success. But at the same time, you got to bring in some veteran leaders to when everything 3-game losing streak. And I think Bobby Wagner, they said he gave that speech to the Seahawks last year and they turned their season around. And it seems like it worked again. You need guys like that.
The three big offensive acquisitions, I guess, if you will, in the offseason, Biotis, Ertz, and Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with Matt Waldman's work. He lives down there in Atlanta. He's one of the best talent evaluators in the game. He told me before the season started, he said, Doug, you're gonna love Zacchaeus. He's an interesting cat. He's
Uh,
smaller than Debo, but likes to play like Debo. And in college, that's kind of how they used him all over the formation. I think they've just recently have figured out how to kind of get him going. But those three offensive additions outside of Jayden Daniels, to me, have been some of the biggest acquisitions they've made. Biotis has been fantastic, and I don't know where we're at if it's not for Ertz because anytime they need a first down or a touchdown or a big play, particularly last month and a half, he's been there.
Oh boy, that Falcons game alone, Zach Ertz. I mean, W free agency signing just from that game alone, and then Tyler Biotish. I mean, it's hard to even put into context how important he is for this offense because I mean you see it even when Michael Dieter comes in, not even just blocking wise, but like changing protections at the line and things like that based on what the defense is showing. Because I remember it was the mic'd up Jayden Daniels game when Tyler Biotis was out. That may have been the Falcons game, and then Michael Dieter was like. It sounded like he was almost crying, like, thank you for making me right, because I guess Jayden Daniels had to verbally step up and help with a lot of the, audibles and pre-snap things that normally Tyler Biotis will handle. Michael Dieter, it didn't seem like necessarily he was ready to handle those things, and Jayden Daniels helped him with that. But that's how pivotal Tyler Biotis is to this offensive line, this entire offense. And I mean, even when he was first signed, all of us were saying, yeah, he's here just in case whatever quarterback you draft in April is not ready to change protections at the line of scrimmage. He's there for that, and that's made Jayden Daniels' job way easier. And then Alameda, I mean, just think about the switcheroo we did where the Eagles trade for Jahan Dotson. We pick up Alameda Zacchaeus for free, and he outperforms Jahan Dotson mightily.
One day before I posted that Brown was a must sign, he goes off in the playoff game and makes me look right. That's the guy I always thought he could be. It's taken the last group didn't know what to do with him. This group has got him going. Might be one of the better screen game receivers in the whole league right now. Add on that they're finally starting to get him down the field. To me, with Terry on one side, with Diami's speed, he has a useful role in the offense.
Oh, he's huge. And the sad part is he's not only our best screen receiver, like the one who gets the ball and the ball carrier and everything, because it's the vision, it's the speed, it's the quickness, it's everything. He's like our best just yards after catch receiver on the entire. I love Terry's speed, but Diami just has a wiggle to him. He has a nice vision, especially on tunnel screens and things like that. But also, he happens to be our best screen blocker, it seems like. So he's one of our better
Yeah.
blocking receivers. I wish he could block for himself in a lot of situations. I feel like we would gain a lot more yards there. So he just has so much utility out of the backfield, whatever you want to do with him. The deep bomb, he had great tracking. I don't think people truly understand. I guess people have to go outside and try to have somebody throw the ball to him. But like to be able to catch a ball like this with the ball coming from behind you, I mean, that's like an elite skill that takes so many years to nurture and to grow, and he has that as well. And I just, yeah, I'm so happy that it took so Ron Rivera and Scott Turner and Eric Bieniemy couldn't really figure it out. Cliff Kingsbury comes in 1 year. Now De'Ami Brown finally looks like what a lot of people hoped he'd be coming out of North Carolina. And I'm so happy because it happened right before he needs to be paid again. And now I feel pretty confident in knowing that they will re-sign him just off of. I mean, you can't lose what he's contributed to this offense, man. Even if you do go receiver, even if you're looking at T. Higgins or something like that, De'Ami Brown still has an important position and role in this offense, regardless of what you do in the offseason.
Especially in an offense that's trying to get four receivers out there from time to time. Not every time, but they'd like to be able to stretch you out, horizontally in that kind of air raid system. They just don't have the personnel to do it, really. And I think it's interesting. Rico, this Saturday night game, Dan Quinn versus
Dan
what?
Campbell, the Dan
Yes, thank
versus
you.
Dan.
I got the
That's the only
Dan.
reason I can remember too. It was literally Dan versus Dan.
Thank you. My brain got stuck there. Two coaches that are super aggressive, do not plan on kicking field goals. They do not plan on punting. They go for it. I think maybe 1 and 2 are like their ranks on going for it on fourth down. The over under is 55 and a half. I think the largest or second largest of the season.
That is
The
crazy.
game, if nothing else, Rico, should be exciting.
Yep, and they've already announced that the average ticket price is the highest in NFL history outside of Super Bowls, which is
Yes.
the first thing I thought of, honestly, was okay. So people think we do have a chance because Las Vegas has us as like 8.5 point underdogs. But if people
Nine
are
and a
willing
half
to
today.
not, oh, whoa, it got worse. I don't know what we did to make it get worse. I did not know that. But like if you're paying that much money for a ticket, you're expecting to see a good game that's going to be entertaining for a full 4 quarters. And I think Jayden Daniels plays a large role into that. So again, my first thing was, okay, if people are willing to pay this much money, they think this game's going to be interesting. They do not think this is going to be just some Detroit Lions blowout or something like that. And we do got to remember, we beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just now, and the Buccaneers beat Detroit in the regular season. So, there's hope for sure.
It's odd. The ticket price would suggest that you're right. The spread suggests that you're completely wrong.
Exactly, it's weird.
Maybe the ticket price also has something to do with the fact that Detroit hadn't been good in a while. They don't have a Super. They've never won a Super Bowl, have they? I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so. No.
And Washington, to your point earlier, is a sleeping giant in the fan base. So I'm sure they were hoping it would travel. I know a lot of people that went to Tampa that are not going to Detroit and paying that $1,000 sticker price just for the ticket. It's incredible. The 9.5. I will be flying if it stays at 9.5. It's still at 9.5 when we're done here. I will be getting off this podcast and laying a bet. 9.5 seems ridiculous.
I
I don't
agree.
have they lost at any point this year by that many points? I'm trying to think. I don't have the schedule here in front of me, but I don't think so. I mean, that seems like a
Remember,
big number to and all Jaden's done is shown you that you're just not going to beat them by
yeah,
10
you
points.
always have a chance with Jaden. It's never over. I mean, anytime he gets his hands on the ball, it's never. I think that, yeah, it may have only have been week one versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when we were not ready at all. I mean, people were gassed. Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. I was worried, like, oh man, like the Cowboys was by 8.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's literally it. You had the Buccaneers, they beat us. What was that? I just had it 20-37. And that was, to your point, the 69% roster turnover. I mean, nobody knew each other. We still have
That's
Mike
right.
Sanders still in the slot. I mean, and that makes
That's
sense.
right.
You can't
And
you
Forbes was
can't do nothing
outside.
for it.
And
Huh?
Forbes was outside.
Yeah, I think he played like what 32 snaps or something like that.
Yeah.
Benjamin St. Juice played like 50 something. Like they just didn't know what they were doing. I mean, a lot of our starters sat throughout the preseason. Like guys like Bobby Wagner didn't play a single snap in the preseason. So the Buccaneers picked a good time to catch us week one. Whoever caught us week one, that was the best chance you had at the Commanders this season.
And post that Bucks game, reports came out from the locker room in Tampa Bay. The players on the other side of the field noticed that that wasn't the same Commanders team that they faced in week one. You know what I mean? It presented totally different challenges. It's interesting, Rico, if we look at that first month of the season, they were winning a lot of football games by running the hell out of the ball. Brian Robinson was leading the league in yards after contact. The last 4 weeks of the season, Jayden Daniels has been the leading rusher on the team. What is it that has caused the slowdown for Robinson? It's not necessarily that it doesn't look like he's lost a step, but those initial tackles that he used to run through just doesn't feel like he's doing it anymore. Is he getting hit at the line too fast, or do you think he's not quite right after the hamstring?
I still have to look at the all 22 because I've been wondering for the past few weeks. I mean, literally since the Titans game before the bye week is like the
That's right.
last time we've had like a really successful run game, which I mean, all credit to Jayden Daniels for what he did just 2 nights ago without a run game. Like that's just amazing that we won time of possession, we never punted nor threw a turnover, won a game, and we had zero run game outside of Jayden Daniels scrambling. He didn't even scramble for like that many yards. So I don't know. I mean, and I like Brian Robinson, but I do definitely feel like we need like just like the Detroit Lions were about to go against. How they have David Montgomery. I think we need like a Jameer Gibbs to go with him. And I love Eckler. I love him as a receiving back, and he can pass protect well for Jayden Daniels as well. But I feel like we need somebody with that extra gear. I think Austin Eckler's just getting up there, and AJ. I mean, even he knows it. I mean, remember he left the Chargers because he said they had a plan for him to get like too many carries, and he was like, I'm getting older. I don't want that many carries.
Yeah.
So I do feel like if we can get like a really electric back, that would help a lot. But also feel like some of the blame should go on the offensive line because Brian Robinson is being met at or even behind the line of scrimmage a lot of these
Yeah.
runs, and I feel like his vision could help. I feel like if he had like cutback ability with the that the right amount of explosion and quickness, maybe he could turn some of these negative plays into positive ones. I feel like this is a lot of blame to go all around. I feel like defenses have just maybe figured out Cliff Kingsbury's run game and how he likes to open up lanes for running backs, and maybe they've schemed against it. I feel like it's a lot of blame to be shared amongst several groups of people.
We probably won't fully know until the off season, but I'm sure somebody will dig into it. We've watched it on the Commanders film room on Tuesdays, and there's really not anything that we've seen specifically. We haven't done one in the last couple of weeks, but before then, it was like, to your point, it was just like a group of mistakes that had led to this thing. But to me, they've got to get that figured out by Saturday night. If they think Jaden Daniels is going to go out there and account for 350 out of your 375 yards, you're not beating the Detroit Lions that way, I don't think.
Nah, you're gonna need to score 30 plus. You're gonna you got to get something going. Yeah, we need this run game bad. I mean, now granted, the Detroit Lions defense does have injuries. I mean, I couldn't imagine how scary it would be if they still like had Aiden Hutchinson, who was on like a record-setting pace a
Uh,
year before his injury. So, we do need to take advantage of the fact that they have injuries. And yeah, let's get this run game back going. I mean, it's due time again since the game before the bye week. I feel like, hey man, every dog has his day. Maybe this is the time we finally get our run game going, and I feel like that's going to your point. I feel like that's going to play a large role in whether we win this game or not.
let's look ahead a little bit to this game. To me, to what your thought is, Jameer Gibbs to me is the biggest problem they'll face. They still haven't figured out how to stop the run in any significant way. Now they are much better in second halves of games with the run defense, but that won't help them if they get going in the first half because Detroit starts fast and ends fast. And that Jameer Gibbs, to your point, is exactly what we need. They got one, and he can go from 0 to 100 before you even realize he's gotten through the hole. He scares me.
Oh, a lot, man. I mean, we saw what Saquon Barkley did to us for 6 quarters. It, we got to figure that one out. That's a very electric back, and I don't know. I mean, because Deron Payne's hurt, and he was actually having a pretty good game against the
I
Buccaneers
thought he
before he
was.
got hurt.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so not having him, I mean, hopefully Johnny Newton steps up. Jonathan Allen, from what I saw, like I feel like he didn't necessarily show it on a stat sheet, but I feel like he did a pretty good job of holding down his gaps and things like that. We're gonna need guys to step up big time because yeah, to your point, I agree. Jameer Gibbs is the biggest threat to us. I mean, their receiving core is really good. Sam Laporta, still a really good tight end. And Ben Johnson's a genius, but Jameer Gibbs is the one where, similar to Jayden Daniels, even if the play call is wrong, he can make you right just by being just a freak athlete.
Yeah, and now that they got Jamison Williams playing right, I mean, that team's got speed everywhere, Rico. That's going to be a damn track meet on Saturday night. I'm excited to see our guys on that turf, but those guys know that turf well, and it runs fast. And I think maybe Jared Goff is the most unappreciated guy in the league, if not certainly the most unappreciated quarterback in the league. He's been excellent. They're going to have to get some kind of pressure on him. They find ways to manufacture pressure, but can they get there with four, maybe five? Again, I think will be a big deal because you'd like to be able to keep people back so that some of those speedy guys, on St. Brown, Jameson Williams, don't just rip the top off of you and beat you down because we've got decent corners, but they're not fast.
Yeah, that is a problem. As both of us being Georgia Bulldog fans, does nobody know about Jamison Williams more than us, man? Boy.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we're gonna, to your point, we're gonna have to get pressure with four. I mean, we could dial up some blitzes to kind of throw them off a little bit, but we got to get there with four because we're gonna need safety help here. I mean, great point about we have some talented corners, but I mean, right now Marshawn Lattimore seems like maybe he's still bothered with a hamstring, and I
I think
love Mike
so.
Sanders still as well, but with the speed, man. I mean, it's great to be quick. It's great to have sticky coverage. It's great to be able to read a quarterback's eyes and things like that. But I mean, if Jameson Williams is even, if he's even, he's leaving, and I'm sure they're gonna try to take advantage of that. They're gonna throw some. They're going to throw some deep bombs, whether it's open or not. I just already. I mean, why not? If with the weapons that you have, even pre-snap, you look at a certain defensive read that we're showing, you just throw it up there and see what happens. So they're going to be tried, and that's going to thin out our defense. So we got to figure out how to stop the run with a limited box of, and so it's a matchup. It's a serious matchup nightmare. We're gonna have to figure it out. Big test for this defense coming up. I'm excited though.
I am too. And in fairness to the defense, that Bucks offense since Mike Evans got back and whatever it was, week 12 or something like that, had been averaging 454 yards a game. They got 284 Sunday night. So they play a bend but don't break style of defense that I think works, but is a tough way to make a living in the playoffs.
Yeah, and even to add to that, I mean, our offense staying on the field for 10, 12, 15 play drives also
Yes.
allows our defense to rest, and they're not on the field as often to give up a bunch of more yards. So I hope that helps a lot too. So I feel like, I mean, I know a lot of people may hate it because they hear it all of the time, but we really are complementary football right now. Our offense keeps the defense off the field. Our defense, sometimes when we need it most, gets that one stop to give Jayden Daniels the chance to win the game. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to another Jayden Daniels game-winning drive again. Because I'm, as much as I love our defense, again, I still feel like we're right now we're out coaching the talent that we have. I feel like another offseason or two, this defense will be extremely talented. Imagine if we get like an Aiden Hutchinson or Michael Parsons level edge rusher. But until then, our coaching staff is doing what they can with what they have. And I feel like we're gonna have to try to limit the amount of times our defense is on the field, and our offense is gonna have to score touchdowns instead of field goals.
It's a great point, Rico. I went back and rewatched the game yesterday, and it was amazing those drives they went on. They just marched all the way up and down the field, then they get the ball back, march all the way up and down the field. It is a tough business to live that way. But to your point, when we started this thing, a lot of that is because Jayden Daniels is throwing BBs over the middle of the field. I knew he had the long ball. I didn't realize that he had that kind of zip coming out of his hand for the short and intermediate routes because those things are missiles.
Yeah, I mean, even back in his pro day, we were looking like that looks fast, but I mean, we're seeing like the Drake Mays, we're seeing the Caleb Williams when they throw it, it's a rocket out of their hands. And it didn't necessarily look like that, even though Jayden Daniels' deep ball was perfect in college, it didn't really look like it had that super zip to your point. I completely agree. So to see him get the ball out of his hands, it explode out of his hands and get to these receivers that quickly over the middle in his intermediate routes and things like that is something that I hoped he had, but I wasn't sure he had it until I've seen it at this level, and it's huge for us, man. Even some to your point, some of the out routes that Terry may run, where the ball is there as soon as he's breaking out of his route, those are huge, man. It forces a defense to respect and have to cover the entire field rather than just some of it, and it's amazing. Opens everything up for everybody.
All right, Rico, the over under is 55 and a half. You like the over or the under on the game?
I'm thinking over. I'm not gonna lie. I think with the injuries that they have to their defense, and I think our offense could definitely exploit that. I think our defense again was still working on that talent side. I think our coaching has helped, but I think they're gonna be able to score points as well. You have, to your point, the two most aggressive going for it on fourth down coaches in the NFL right now, and I think we were like historically efficient at it this year on our end. I mean, a lot of that is just Jayden Daniels being able to make bad plays and the good ones. I mean, that 3rd and 1 where where I mean they have him in the backfield and all
7
he was
yards
able to
behind the
do is
line. Yeah.
grab the towel and chasing them, and Jayden Daniels was able to still pick up the first down. So I think our offenses are going to explode in this game. And I have the over for sure.
And let's it's early in the week, but what do you like for the score?
Hmm. I'm thinking another Jayden Daniels game-winning drive. I feel like the score is going to be something so weird because maybe you go for a 2-point conversion type of thing. I'm thinking game winning drive 31-30 or something like that with another Zane Gonzalez nervous field goal.
I love it. So then you're definitely taking the points.
Yeah, I'm definitely over. I'm for sure over.
All right, brother. You know, I always appreciate you coming on. These are always great. Enjoy Saturday night, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go dogs. Go commanders. Hell to the commanders. Let's do it.
I love it. All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.